And this, of course, is a question that we're asking. India's clout on the world stage is on the rise. Nations across the globe see India as an important partner, especially in their geostrategic considerations. And this is not only evident by New Delhi's responsible role as the chair of the global bodies such as G20 and the SCO, but also by the manner in which foreign policies are being framed by some of the most powerful nations. These nations seek to elevate ties with India to that of a strategic partnership level. In fact, reports prepared by experts also indicate that India's global footprint has risen tremendously over the years. Now, there are many examples to in fact substantiate this. One of them is, of course, Russia's new foreign policy. It was signed by President Vladimir Putin on Friday. And this policy, in fact, reforms Russia's approach towards its adversary nations. But what is interesting is this. In the context of Russia looking at its adversary nations, Moscow has identified India along with China as its key partner. The policy, in fact, has come at a time when Moscow is facing global isolation due to its offensive in Ukraine. Now, India has not taken any sides in the war. India's position has been clear that this is not a time for war and military expansion. India continues to maintain economic relations with Russia. It also has very good ties with the United States and its allies. NATO has also shown interest in the world's largest democracy. Responding to a question by WION, United States' permanent representative to NATO said that the alliance is open to more engagement with New Delhi. Now, the envoy also confirmed that informal exchanges in fact took place between officials from NATO and India on the sidelines of the Raisina dialogue. She also acknowledged that India plays a crucial and an important role in ensuring a free and an open Indo-Pacific.
But I think the message that has already been sent back to India is that the NATO alliance certainly is open to more engagement with India should that country take an interest in pursuing that.
Not only this, a report by a prominent research institute in Singapore has also highlighted India's growing status amongst the ASEAN nations. The survey asked respondents to choose a partner to hedge against the uncertainties of the US-China strategic rivalry. And what is interesting is that India stood in the third position after the European Union and Japan. It's important to mention that New Delhi was ranked last in the previous version of this survey. This has come as India and Southeast Asian nations have been strengthening their defense and security relationship both at the bilateral and multilateral levels to address common threats. And this is also evident in India's agenda of chairing the G20 meeting. It has reiterated on several occasions that it will act as the voice of the global South. Owing to this, ASEAN nations, of course, now see India as an alternate power to China. Now, all this is a clear testament to the manner in which India's foreign policy is being conducted and also to India's growing stature in an extremely and uncertain world. And to give us more updates and more insights in terms of how India has been shaping its foreign policy and also how things will look going forward, you're being joined by Navdeep Singh Suri, who's a former Commissioner of India to Australia. So thank you very much indeed for taking time out and speaking to us here on WION. I want you to in fact first tell us a bit about how you see things changing in the world at this moment, because this is an extremely complex moment. In the third decade of the 21st century, there's a war in Ukraine, there is trouble at the Taiwan Strait, and what is interesting is that both Russia and the United States want India to be on their side.
Absolutely, and you started with your comment about the Russian foreign policy review. I think that's as much a reflection of Russia's desire not to appear isolated globally as India's. I don't think India is desperate to be called an ally of Russia necessarily at this point of history, nor are we ready to join a military alliance like NATO. But yes, it does speak of the fact that 2023 is a pivotal year for India. It really does signify the arrival of India on the global stage in a manner that we have not previously seen in the 75 years of post-independence India. I think it's partly the fortuitous circumstance that both G20 and SCO summits are going to be held in India this year. But I think there's more to it than just the timing of these global events. It is also the fact that India is one of the fastest growing major economies in the world. We will be a significant contributor to global economic growth. We've come out relatively strong despite the devastation wrought by the pandemic, despite the burdens imposed by the Ukraine conflict. So the Indian economy has shown a degree of resilience. There is a certain confidence in India's ability to manage these crises at this point of time. So yes, there's a huge expectation, as that survey outlined, from India during this year.
Absolutely, indeed. Now, the assessment that's been made by Moscow that it wants India and China as its key partners at a time when the Western world, led by the United States, has been trying to isolate Russia. India follows a policy of, following its own interest. It is not in any way swayed by either of these, big 2-3 world powers. With that being the case, do you think India is doing the right thing by doing business with the Russians? We are continuing to purchase oil, but at the same time, we seem to be very close friends with the United States as well.
Absolutely, and why not? The Europeans continue to buy Russian gas, don't they? So if we are buying Russian oil, that's in the interest of the Indian consumer, and that's in the interest of India as a country. And each government, each nation has a responsibility, particularly in a democratic setup, to protect its national interest. I think this question was posed to our external affairs minister sometime back, that whose side are you on? And he said very eloquently, we are on India's side. Right. So I don't think we need to be defensive or diffident about being equidistant or comfortable with both US and Russia, or both with the West and Russia. I think it's an additional point here, Mohammed. That is, we are also mindful that we don't want to get dragged into big power politics. And be held hostage by their conflicts. And so what we have tried to do quite consciously and actively over the last few years is to deepen our strategic partnership with key regional players, key middle powers. If you look at the way our relationship has blossomed with France in Europe, with Japan in Asia, with UAE in the Middle East, and of course with Australia, and not just bilaterally. We are working with the Quad. We are working through trilaterals with France and Australia, trilaterals with France and UAE. So there's a whole new diplomatic architecture that is being put into place that is destined, or it is designed to give us more flexibility in how we are able to pursue our national interests.
Absolutely, indeed. Ambassador Suri, thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us and getting us all those insights there.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.